Deep in Rajasthan, there's a place where the past isn't just history, it refuses to stay buried. A place so genuinely feared that the government itself has a law against going there after sunset. Today, we're going inside Bhangarh Fort to try and unravel the chilling legends that cling to its very walls.
And look, this isn't just some old wives' tale. For the people who live there, this is a rule for survival. Because when that sun starts to dip below the horizon, the fort, it changes. And what happens after daylight fades, well, that's the mystery we're here to figure out.
Yeah, there's a good reason for all that fear. Bhangarh Fort holds the official title, the #1 most haunted place in all of India. It's so serious that the Archaeological Survey of India, the official body, says nobody, and I mean nobody, gets in after 6 p.m. It really makes you wonder, what exactly are they so afraid of? To really get what that means, we gotta talk about a guy named Manav. He was a young tour guide who one night broke the rules and came face to face with the fort's terror. He literally saw his own death staring right back at him.
See, Manav was a pro at what the locals call khauf ka danda, literally the business of fear. He was only 20, but he was smart. He knew that the basic history tour just wasn't going to pay the bills. So he'd spice things up, add a little extra detail to the ghost stories to scare the tourists. He never, ever thought he'd one day have to live through the horror stories he was making up.
So how did this all go so wrong for him? Well, it started with a few simple but pretty fatal mistakes. He was already spinning these wild tales, but then a group of college students offered him a big chunk of cash for a tour after closing time. Greed won, and he broke the one rule everyone in Bhangarh knows you don't break. You never, ever stay in the fort after 6 p.m. The students, they just cooked up some lame excuse, and poof, they were gone. Slipped away right as the sun was setting. No money, and even worse, he heard the heavy clang of the main gate being locked. Just like that, Manav was trapped, all alone, inside India's most haunted place. And that's when the panic starts to set in, right? You can just imagine it. Every single ghost story he'd ever exaggerated for a few extra rupees, every jump scare he'd ever manufactured, suddenly felt terrifyingly real. What if they weren't just stories? He was about to find out. And then, he heard it. The clear sound of women laughing, coming from a room nearby. For a second, he probably felt relieved. Okay, I'm not alone. He rushes over, yanks back this thin curtain, expecting to see other people. But instead, absolutely nothing. Just a cold, suffocating darkness. He starts to back out of this pitch-black room and bam, he sees her. A woman, just standing there silently. At first he thought she looked sad, maybe she was crying. But as he got a little closer, that tiny bit of relief he felt just turned to ice. Her face, it had just one detail that mattered. A terrifying, completely unnatural smile. He just bolts, doesn't matter where, just away from that thing. But every time he dared to look over his shoulder, she was right there. Not running, just keeping pace, as if it was no effort at all. And that same horrible smile was plastered on her face. It was useless. Every hallway he ran down, every dark corner he turned, somehow she was already there, just waiting for him. It was a literal nightmare, but it was happening for real, in the cold stone maze of the fort. He's getting desperate, and then he sees it. A dim light up ahead, a little shop, a man packing up his things. Manav runs to him, begging for help, but the man just ignores him. And then he hears a woman's voice, her voice, coming from the man. "I'm waiting for salvation." The figure turns. It was her. And out of the shadows, other shapes, other spirits, all started shambling towards him. His only way out was up, a flight of stairs right in front of him. He just scrambled up, not even knowing where they went. But as he did, the spirits just stopped. They wouldn't follow him. He had stumbled into a small temple to the god Hanuman, sacred ground they couldn't cross. The terror was too much. He collapsed right there and was found unconscious by the first tour group the next morning.
So Manav's story, it's a terrifying modern-day ghost story, but it's built on a foundation of some seriously old legends. So you have to wonder, where did all this fear come from in the first place? Well, the haunting of Bhangarh supposedly goes back to two ancient curses that doomed the fort from the very beginning.
Okay, so there are two main stories, two big legends that try to explain why this place is so cursed.
The first one involves a holy man and a promise that was broken. The second one, it's much more dramatic. It's about a sorcerer, a beautiful princess, and an obsession that went horribly wrong. But here's the thing. Both stories end the exact same way, with Bhangarh completely and utterly destroyed.
All right, story number 1. It's all about a holy man, Guru Balu Nath, who gave his permission to build the fort with one single, very important condition. The shadow of the fort must never, ever touch his home. For years, the kings respected that, but then a new, more ambitious ruler came along and built the walls higher. The moment the shadow touched the ascetic's hut, the curse was triggered, and the entire city fell to ruin.
But then there's the other story, the one everyone talks about. And this one's got it all. Black magic, a beautiful princess, and a whole lot of obsession. A tantric, a sorcerer, became obsessed with Princess Ratnavati. He tried to trick her into falling in love with him by putting a spell on some perfume. But she was sharp. She sensed something was wrong. She threw the bottle from her balcony, but as it fell, it morphed into a giant boulder that crushed the tantric. And with his very last breath, he cursed the princess, the city, and everyone in it to die, just like he did.
So you've got Manav's harrowing story, you've got these two epic curses. It's a hell of a narrative, right? But this is where we have to take a step back and ask the big question. How much of this is actually real, and how much is just a story that's too good not to tell over and over again? After hearing all of that, the modern horror story, the ancient curses, it all comes back to this one simple question. Is Bhangarh really the #1 most haunted place in India? Or has its reputation, a reputation fueled by storytellers like Manav, just grown into a legend that's way bigger than the reality?
Well, when you really start digging, things get a little blurry. I mean, we know for a fact that guides like Manav were literally in the business of fear. Some really well-known paranormal investigators, including the late Gaurav Tiwari, spent nights there and came up with pretty much nothing concrete. And then you got the power of suggestion, right? If you go to a place expecting to be terrified, every little sound, every shadow suddenly becomes proof. The reality is, India probably has tons of creepy haunted places. Bhangarh just has the best PR. And you know, this all leads to a really interesting final thought. The source material puts it perfectly. Fear has no meter. Whether the ghosts are real or just tall tales, the terror that people feel inside Bhangarh Fort, that's undeniable. So maybe the real question isn't whether the fort is haunted. Maybe it's about what makes a place truly scary. Is it the spirits of the dead, or is it the stories that we tell ourselves in the dark?